Over the past decade, a majority of Americans have come to believe that children brought to this country by their parents illegally should, in most cases, have the opportunity to remain in the only country many have ever known, provided they are law-abiding and productive. But as we've come to know what the majority wants, the majority doesn't always get. And so rather than codify DACA, Congress chooses to defer to a running legal gun battle that's triggered yet another adverse federal court ruling against the Obama-era regulation. And so, panel, the young and not so young people collectively known as dreamers, well, they are once again in immigration limbo. And with that, I go to you, Joe Jaworski. What do you make of this? How would you mediate this?
Yeah, no, look, these DACA children and adults, as we know them, are some of the best of American ideals and values. They're contributing, they're playing on sports teams, they're studying, they're getting graduate degrees, they're working all throughout our economy. Remove them, which, how would you ever do that? And you will lose a huge part of our economy and our cultural fiber. And so, to me, this is one where I would, as president, were I ever to get there, would demand that this be sort of a priority. So I would mediate this by saying, can we not come together and support Americans in America? Because that's who they are.
Okay, my fallback position always is what's fair and what's right. And, it just doesn't seem fair or right to send a kid back to a country he's never known because his parents made a decision. Gary, I know you've thought about this.
Yeah.
Is there any solution here?
Here's the problem. What's not fair and not right is we have open borders. What's fair and not right is we're letting criminals and terrorists into this country, and the Obama administration and the Biden administration could care less. That's what's not fair. So from my standpoint, I think what the Congress should be doing is coming together, first to agree we're going to close the border and control the border. Second, let's figure out who the hell's in this country. And third, after we've done all that, run all the DACA kids, now adults, through the system and make sure they're not going to be on welfare, make sure that they're not criminals, and then let them stay. That's fine. But we have no clue who's in. We got, 9 million people come in since Biden's been president? We have no clue who's here. We have no idea. They hand them a piece of paper and say, show up in a year for your hearing on asylum, which we know 85 or 90% of them are rejected. But do they ever get kicked out of the country? No.
Chris, what's your take on this?
Well, I'm trying to have trouble following that one, but
so Chris, I love you.
Look, the DACA kids. If we're going to just talk about the DACA kids, that should have been solved years ago. They didn't do anything wrong. The President Obama limited it just to the kids who were brought here by their parents as children, and now they're having kids of their own. And Congress ought to sit down and fix that problem, and just fix it, and let them stay. Make them citizens. If they're not doing anything wrong and they're working, make them citizens. But I do agree with Gary. Congress could have fixed our immigration problem 40 years ago, but they don't want to because it is great political fodder, and that's why they don't do it.